I can easily make a strong argument on how the Atlanta Hawks have been one of the most entertaining teams in the NBA all season long. And the Hawks have been a team that's been on my radar since the 2024 NBA offseason. And how they got on my radar, it's a little embarrassing, but there is no shame in my game. And to try to make a long story short, I'm a big time, I live in Detroit, Michigan, so I'm naturally a big time fan of the Detroit Pistons. And I talk about them on the channel a lot, especially in the off season. And after watching both teams conclude their off season moves, the draft, free agency, making trades, I made a bold statement saying that the Detroit Pistons were going to have a better record and a better season than the Atlanta Hawks. So that's why I've been watching them so closely. And obviously right now the Atlanta Hawks, they're making me eat my words. And at the time, I didn't see the Atlanta Hawks being what they were being right now. I don't know if the Atlanta Hawks, the fans, I don't know if you guys saw this coming, but for me, during the 2024 offseason, what led me saying my Pistons will have a better season, it was just so much uncertainty for me when it came to the Atlanta Hawks. And it started with the DeJounte Murray trade, because DeJounte Murray, he's a really good basketball player. He made an all-star team before, and he was putting up some pretty decent numbers with the Atlanta Hawks. It just wasn't a natural fit between him and Trae Young. So when I saw them move on from DeJounte Murray, I wasn't shocked at that. But when I didn't see them go out and try to put another star alongside Trae Young from that trade, I thought maybe the Atlanta Hawks were moving more towards being a rebuilding team that's focusing on developing the young talent that they have, because they were also getting the #1 pick in the 2024 NBA draft. I didn't know that the Atlanta Hawks, I don't know if the Hawks knew this, but it seems like they already knew they already had some guys that could be star caliber players alongside Trae Young. So that right there, and that's why I say it, like, it's been really entertaining. If you've been watching these guys since the beginning of the season, it's been really, like, since the offseason, it's been really like a roller coaster, because you don't really know what to expect next. And we saw the Atlanta Hawks, the way that they started their season, kind of got off to a slow start. They were having close competitive games, some that they won, some that they lost. And I think something really shifted for this team during that during the NBA Cup game when they were without Trae Young and they went into Boston and upset the defending champs. The Boston Celtics, they damn near never lose at home. So for them to go in there and beat those guys, like those type of wins, I think they shift something in a team's mindset. And Jalen Johnson, I think that's the game where he had his first triple-double of the season. It was a monstrous triple-double as well. So we saw those things. So we saw those things happen, and really since then, the Atlanta Hawks, they've been a team that's just been steadily improving. Now they're starting to become a team that's winning a lot more than they're losing. So I think they've been super entertaining this season. And we look at some of these facts, some of the reasons I love watching the Atlanta Hawks. My personal favorite thing is how these young guys have been performing. Like I said, when it was so much uncertainty about their roster, getting Dyson Daniels in that. And I didn't see Dyson Daniels being this impactful on the Atlanta Hawks. And it just goes to show you how important opportunity is when it comes to getting to that NBA level. Because Dyson Daniels, he was a lottery pick. He was picked either, if I'm not mistaken, it was 6th or 7th overall by the New Orleans Pelicans. But the time that he got drafted, it's one of them situations where the Pelicans got blessed by a trade with another team that did bad. So the Pelicans got their draft pick, because the year that they drafted Dyson Daniels, they went to the playoffs the year before. And when you're a rookie, you getting drafted to a playoff team, it's hard to find those minutes, and it's hard to find that opportunity. Definitely wasn't getting the opportunity that he's getting here in Atlanta, but he's made the most of it so far. And it's been a really good story, because he's renowned himself as one of the best defenders in all of the NBA. We got a lot of people saying he should be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Definitely think he's going to make an All-NBA defensive team. He's been that elite so far this season. He's leading the NBA in steals, leading the NBA in deflections, and then also he's legit a really good perimeter defender. It goes so much deeper than the steals and deflections. My personal favorite battle from this season was watching Cade Cunningham and watching Dyson Daniels. They met up probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that was the offensive and defensive matchup the entire game, and both guys were just making each other work the whole game. It showed me how great Cade Cunningham is on the offensive side of the ball, and vice versa showed me how great Dyson Daniels is on the defensive side of the ball. So Dyson Daniels, he's been a godsend for the Atlanta Hawks so far this season, and he's definitely not shabby on the offensive side of the ball as well. High basketball IQ, can finish around the rim. He's a supreme athlete. So great, Dyson Daniels. I think he's been great the way he's developed so far this season. And then the same thing with Jalen Johnson. And with Jalen Johnson, I think his career is on an insane trajectory right now. We look at his first year starting last year, he made big leaps from the previous year, and then we take that year and compare it to this one, he's taking another big leap. And I don't know how many times I done said this season. I've been telling it to people in real life, telling it to you guys through the videos, but man, I have become a huge fan of Jalen Johnson, because one of my favorite things I love about basketball players is when they have a very high basketball IQ. I love guys who like to pass, because when I play in real life, I like to get a bucket, but I like to pass the ball as well. And Jalen Johnson, I think he just has when we see players as athletic as him, as tall as him, and they can jump like him and finish like him, they don't really care to put anything else in when it comes to playmaking, when it comes to reading the floor. But when I watch Jalen Johnson play, it's like, he looks like a point guard. The way he's directing traffic, the way he's leading the passes to bigs when they got guys sealed, or when he's throwing lob passes, when he's throwing lobs when the big has guys sealed in the post. Like, those are like tough passes to make. So to see him make those passes, just very, very impressive. But he's a high impact player offensively and defensively. I think he has been outstanding as well, and he's just made the Atlanta Hawks so fun to watch. And then one more young player I want to quickly give props to is DeAndre Hunter. And I know he's 27 years of age. Some people might consider that starting to get a little old in basketball, but I actually think that's still super young. And it's cool to see him have the season that he's had, because we've seen in the past, DeAndre Hunter, he's played majority of the games in the season. There's been some seasons where he's missed majority of the games. There's been some times where he's been out of the lineup when the Atlanta Hawks really needed him. So to see him having this type of season, this type of season is where he's averaging 20 points off the bench. Like, 20 points off the bench is that's ridiculous. So he's definitely played himself into a 6-man of the year candidate. I think Dyson Daniels and Jalen Johnson have played themselves into most improved player of the year candidates, because that's how special that they've been so far this year. So I think that factor right there, it says a lot about the Atlanta Hawks, and it goes into my initial statement saying that they've been one of the most entertaining teams all season long. And then another way that the Atlanta Hawks are so entertaining, just the way that they play the game of basketball, and we saw that on full display in one of their biggest games of the season. I thought this game was very important for the Atlanta Hawks for so many different reasons. We talked about the type of season that they've been having and how they've been building that confidence and been getting better and better each and every game. They have a bunch of games this season that nobody saw them winning. The Cleveland Cavaliers, they've beaten twice. The Boston Celtics, they beat at home with no Trae Young. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks, and then their most recent victims was the New York Knicks. So just for that factor right there, that was a big time game. And then we get all the fun stuff that comes up with the matchup of the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks. We all know the New York Knicks, they really hate Trae Young. Trae Young, he emotionally scarred the Knicks in 2021. So whenever they play each other, it's very fun. And then also on top of that, they played in the playoffs. So it's a lot of hostility in this game. And I think the New York Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks, this is one of the more entertaining NBA Cup games that we've seen. They were playing really good. We saw a lot of highlight plays, and that just goes into that very vigorous, very entertaining style of play that we see the Atlanta Hawks play with. And what they do, what they're able to do, they're able to play defense at a very high level. They're able to turn you over, and they have one of the best transition games in the NBA. And quarterbacking all of that, running the show for all of that, is Iceman Trae Young, one of the most entertaining players in the NBA today. We saw he's a real showman after beating the New York Knicks once again in the Garden. This time it's for money. It was money on the line, so he goes into the middle of the court on their logo, gets down, and he and he shoots dice like he's at a craps game. So Trae Young, he was magnificent. He had another big time game, another double. But back to this playing style of the Atlanta Hawks, they're able to get out in transition where they're at their best because they have all of these athletes. They have Jalen Johnson, they have Dyson Daniels, they have Reza Shea, they have DeAndre Hunter, and then they also have some pretty athletic bigs with Clint Capella and Okongwu. So they're really good in transition. And then also this half-court offense is starting to look really well. They got half-court scorers now with DeAndre Hunter. We talked about a little bit earlier how amazing he's been this season coming off the bench. They had Bogdanovich, who didn't have the best game against the Knicks, and he wasn't even supposed to play. I was going to have him on my parlay, but they said it was looking like he wasn't supposed to play. So, but he tried to go out there and give it a go, but he didn't have the strongest outing. But nonetheless, they have guys that can score in the half court now, and I love this one half court action when Jalen Johnson is the screen setter for Trae Young, and they trap Trae Young, and he gets it to Jalen Johnson on that short roll. I think that's their best offense right there whenever they can get the defense in rotation, because they have three outstanding passers in that lineup if you factor in Dyson Daniels, or if Dyson Daniels is on the court with those two guys. But having two elite passers is just such an unfair advantage sometimes, because you can catch the defense off balance in so many different ways. So I love that for the Atlanta Hawks. And like I said, it's just watching them, the trajectory that they've been on, it's been really fun. And like I said, like the confidence and the skillfulness inside of them is starting to spread like a wildfire. And that's what I want to talk about with you guys. I think the Atlanta Hawks are becoming one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference, and they're definitely worth keeping your eye on. But if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man. And that's curtains.